Alrighty, welcome back. We are on to chapter 8 of the Transcendent series by Lisa Beeson. We left off of chapter 7, where Kira Riley and her father found in the box she got at the antique shop a blue jewel that to Kira had the same secret, qualities her own blue eyes had. Speaking of blue eyes. And even her father, who can't see the opalescent qualities, also agreed that they matched her eyes. Even though all he can see is a plain blue, he recognized that they matched her eyes. And she showed Nate and Ainsley, and Nate said that she was way too lucky for her own good. And she had to agree, or so she thought. And now we're on to chapter 8. And again, if you're just popping in, don't mind the face. I've got sunburnt, as you can see, and I'm just trying to keep it moisturized. God, I really aged it like 20 years. Oy. Alrighty, chapter 8. Things are starting to get good. I mean, they were already good, but, that was intro. That was, first episode, right? Now we're into the series. About a week after I had my weird dream, I walked into class with my friends, and there was a man at the chalkboard. It wasn't Absalom, but it was still strange. We hadn't had a substitute all year. Miss Gillespie always bragged about her iron constitution. She never got sick. We sat down in our seats, looking at each other like, what's the deal? The man at the chalkboard wrote Mr. Briggs at the top of the chalkboard, and then turned towards the class. He scanned the room until his slate gray eyes rested on me. I looked behind me to see if I was just in his line of sight, but nope, he was looking right at me. After a couple seconds, he turned and went to go sit behind Miss Gillespie's desk. He looked more like some kind of police officer or Secret Service agent than a substitute teacher. He was tall and muscular with a stony face, and his blonde hair was cut in a high and tight military style. The bell rang, and a few stragglers eked their way in, trying not to be noticed as they sat down at their desks. When everyone was settled, Mr. Briggs cleared his throat, then announced that Miss Gillespie was absent due to family matters, and that he would be filling in for as long as was needed. Then he proceeded to call out everyone's names for attendance. He looked up at each kid as they raised their hand, after he called their name, committing their faces to memory. When he reached my name, he looked up, and when he saw me reluctantly raise my hand, he narrowed his eyes and gave me a slight tip of the head. This guy gave me the creeps. I looked around to see if anyone else noticed his special attention towards me, but it didn't seem like anyone did. I couldn't get a read on his intentions. There were too many people in the room, and he was too far away. When he was done with attendance, he got up from the desk. Holding the notes Miss Gillespie left behind, he announced, "All right, class, you all were supposed to read chapters 7 through 10 of Huckleberry Finn over the weekend." Then he looked back down at the notes. Judging by his accent, he was definitely a northern transplant, or maybe from the Midwest. He started asking questions about the chapters, so I slunk down in my chair and started mindlessly doodling like I usually do. Even though I knew all the answers to the questions, I never raised my hand. I left that to the eager beavers in the front who wanted to show off. After moving through the lesson plan and asking a few questions, Mr. Briggs seemed disappointed that I had no intention of answering any of them. So he cleared his throat and asked the next question. "Who can tell me why Huck and Jim must travel together from the point of view of the characters and of the author?" A few eager beavers raised their hands, but he ignored them. I could almost feel his eyes boring into the top of my head as I bent over my desk, doodling on the cover of my binder. "Kira, Can you tell us why they must travel together? Yes, but I wasn't going to. Sorry, sir, I don't know, I replied. He narrowed his eyes only a fraction, but I had caught it. He didn't believe me. Miranda and her cronies turned around towards me and mouthed the words, Special K. Over the years, I'd only had to deal with Miranda in a couple of classes here and there, but for some reason this year, I was cursed to have her in 5 of my classes. Normally, I'd just ignore her, but my nerves were already on edge, so at that moment, something snapped. Actually, sir, I do know the answer. Jim needs Huck because Huck is white and can accomplish things in the everyday world that Jim wouldn't be able to without raising suspicion, since he is black and is seen as inferior. Huck could also pretend to be Jim's owner, so they could be free to move about without branding Jim as a runaway slave. Huck needs Jim close because he is the only one that knows that Huck is alive, and he needs to make sure Jim won't betray his secret. Huck also feels morally obligated to him since Jim is suspected for murdering Huck, and would be put to death if he were caught. Twain's reason for them traveling together is because the whole point of the book is to separate Huck from a racist society long enough for him to be able to rise above the ethos of racial superiority and be able to see Jim as a human being and not just his property. Throughout the journey, Huck has to struggle between what society tells him is right and wrong and his own moral compass. The whole class turned to stare at me. This was the most I had said in class in the past 7 years. Mr. Briggs smirked as though I had just validated what he suspected of me. I was like, crap, what did I just do? Very good, Kira. Excellent answer, he said. My scalp has a way of tingling when I sense I'm in danger, and my scalp was definitely tingling. The bell rang, signaling that the class was over. I grabbed my stuff as fast as I could so I could get the heck out of there. Nate and Ainsley looked at me like, what was that? I just shrugged my shoulders and moved towards the door. I had almost made it through when Mr. Briggs called out, Kira, can you stay behind for a minute? Dang, I almost made it. Sorry, sir, I don't want to be late for my next class. That's okay, it'll only take a minute, he assured me. What I really wanted to do was run out the door as far away from him as I could, but that seemed impractical, and I didn't need people thinking I was more of a spaz than they already did. So reluctantly, I told Nate and Ainsley to go ahead without me, and I walked over to where Mr. Briggs sat at the teacher's desk. He steepled his fingers and waited for all the other kids to leave the room before he began. You are a lot smarter than you lead people to believe, Kira, he accused. I shrugged my shoulders. I'm just a quick learner. It's not a secret. I just don't like to show off. He leaned back in the chair. Quick learner, huh? Is there anything else you're good at? Athletics or music, perhaps? Do you have any special quirks that others don't? You shouldn't have to hold back your talents, Kira. They're meant to be cultivated and shared. He was fishing for information and throwing off a major creep vibe. He started to spin a coin on the desk. When it slowed down and fell flat with a metallic clink, I saw that it looked an awful lot like the buffalo nickel I'd given to Walter. What were the chances he'd have an identical nickel minted the same year as the one I had given to the street performer? How did he get that? What had he done to Walter? He saw me looking at the coin and lifted an eyebrow as if to dare me to ask where he got it. I tried to get myself under control and sound as nonchalant as I could. Sorry to disappoint you, sir, but I'm just a normal 8th grader who is going to be late for history if I don't leave right now. As I turned to leave, he grabbed my arm. You are anything but normal, Kira. I looked into his eyes and I could tell he wanted to use me for something. But for what, I couldn't tell. I was about to punch him in the throat if he didn't let go of my arm, but just then one of the office ladies knocked on the open door, and he quickly let go. Mr. Briggs, I need to... the office lady began, but I didn't hear the rest of what she said, because as soon as he let go, I was out of there. I ran down the hall, shoving through groups of people as I went. I was halfway to my history class when Miranda stepped in front of me, blocking my way. "What's the hurry, Special K? Is there a ghostly energy chasing you?" She smirked, and her cronies snickered behind her. "I know it's hard for you, but can you not be a raging bitch right now, Miranda? I don't have time for your crap today." And then I sidestepped her, relishing the shock on her face, since I'd never stood up to her before, and ran the rest of the way to history. I ran into class and plopped down in my seat. As I was trying to regulate my breathing and pulse, Mrs. Jessup called out to me, "Miss Riley, excited to learn about Manifest Destiny, are we?" She looked over the reading glasses perched on her nose. I gave her my most innocent smile. "Always, Mrs. Jessup. I sure do love history." Then I gave her a hearty thumbs up to accentuate the point. Shaking her head at my uncharacteristic behavior, she seemed to put it down to normal pubescent weirdness and went back to what she was doing. Well done, heckers. That was a short chapter. Chapter 8 is done. Another short video, but I suppose that's good. Not everyone wants a 40-minute video all the time. I'm excited, so I'm probably going to keep reading, but I'll go ahead and cut this video so it's all just in singular chapters. Not making the same mistake twice. Ain't gonna risk it. So, thank you for joining us for Chapter 8. A weird substitute teacher, and she just rushed into history class. I will hopefully see y'all again in Chapter 9. Peace out.